Good morning, Brad Washa. I'm one of the Ops Section Chiefs with the Alaska Incident Management Team on the north zone of the Monument Fire for the 28th of August. Today I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the weather because I think weather is going to be the driving factor for today's fire. And on this fire we actually have an incident meteorologist there with the National Weather Service, and Angie's with us. She's actually out of Florida, and they move those folks around. And we also have a team of folks working on fire behavior products, including on-site, and we actually have one of our folks working virtually out of Alaska doing some of the long-term analysis. So with today, we've got a number of factors coming together that are of concern and could potentially impact fire behavior. And I'm going to switch to one of the products that our IMET, the incident meteorologist, puts together, and that's called our fire weather matrix. And this looks basically 5 to 7 days out as far as what we can expect for conditions. And you can see the little cells here. The ones that are in the orangish color are of greater concern because they impact fire behavior. Yellow is mild concern, and then moderate conditions are in the green. So today, last night we didn't have really good humidity recovery, especially on the ridge lines. And that means that our relative humidities during the day are already at a low level, and we're looking at those potentially getting around 10% today. And that's a fairly low relative humidity level, especially in this country for fire. The other thing we got is hot temperatures, 96 degrees up on the fire line. And then we also have an element called the Haynes Index, and that looks at atmospheric stability along with the dryness of the air mass. The Haynes in California, because of marine influences and some of the topography, isn't as much of an indicator of large fire growth like it would be in the Great Basin or Rocky Mountains, but it is definitely something that we look at. And with all of these elements coming together, we're really watching things. We've also got some squirrely winds today. The winds, and I'm going to switch back to the map here. The winds are going to start out of the northwest, out of the northeast. That's a positive thing for the fire because, again, we've got the river complex to our north. That'll put some smoke over the fire, and that also, with that smoke coverage over the fire, helps to moderate the fire behavior. Those winds, though, over the course of the day are going to switch to the southeast. They're going to reduce in intensity, so we're not having a big wind event, but it is changing the direction. And with that, we don't have any fires in the immediate vicinity of us to the southeast, so that could bring some clear air. That clear air allows the sun to hit those fuels, dry those fuels out a little bit more and make them more active, and so that's a concern, especially in a couple areas where we're seeing quite a bit of heat from our infrared flights, and those are flights that we have done at the nighttime hours that look at hot areas. And in this area in the southern part of the fire, right up along our break between the south zone managed by CAL FIRE 5 and ourselves. This area has quite a bit of heat. It's in some really steep terrain that we haven't been able to get resources, and that's an area of concern today from a fire behavior standpoint. We're also having some issues up here in the Big Creek area. We've decided that our efforts with the resources we have today, or at this time, are not being successful. So we are pulling back resources in that area. The other area, and we're not putting resources up here, but the fire is continuing to make a move into the wilderness. Nothing huge, but there is a lot of heat in that area. So those are kind of the three areas of concern or that we're looking at today for potential for increased fire behavior. With that, as far as our operations on the ground for today, got a number of things that we're doing. Like I said, we are pulling some resources out of this Big Creek area and pulling them back to Denny to do structure protection, and also continuing to reinforce this indirect line that's not immediate adjacent to the fire. We're reinforcing that in the event that fire comes out. We're not planning on that happening yet, but just being ready in case. We have inserted some repellers, so off of helicopters they repelled into the fire, and they're keeping things in check in this New River area. In case we do get any spots, they're going to be there immediately. And then we do have aircraft, again, if the air allows and there's not smoke, to come in there. So they're working that area there. Coming down in the Underwood Mountain area, we're feeling really good. We've moved some more resources in there to help with the mop-up. And some of those resources, we're starting to pull our resources out of the interior. We're feeling really comfortable. We've opened up the 299 road with controlled traffic in there. So we're feeling comfortable, and we're starting to pull some of that river group out of that area to support other areas. We're also continuing to reinforce, again, those indirect lines. One of the operations that started, I believe it started yesterday, continuing through the day, We're doing some thinning along the road out to Hiampah. So if you're driving out there, please be slow. We've got hand crews in there thinning, and then we've also got chippers chipping that thinning material along that road. And then lastly, we'll look at this northeast corner. We are getting a few resources in, but part of the problem is as soon as we get resources in, the resources that we have on the fire, they've been here 14 to 21 days. They're timing out and have to go home and reset. So we do have a hotshot crew and a hand crew up in here that we're trying to box in this corner here off the North Fork of the Trinity River. And with that, we've got one of our hotshot crews in there, plus a hand crew. Also looking at this East Fork and the Hobo Gulch ridgeline, and with that, reinforcing that in case the fire does come out there, and then also working on our contingency lines, reinforcing those. We've got some additional resources that in the past we've been basically borrowing to the south zone. They're starting to have less need down there, so they're coming back and helping us out in this area. So with that, I think that sums up what we've got going on in the north zone for today. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Jim Hudson, Operations Section Chief with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5 with your update for today. Moving from the zone break to Junction City down to Evans Bar, crews continued to mop up yesterday. We have really solid black line. They built depth, cooling the interior of the fire. And today we're going on in patrol status from the zone break just above the Red Hill, or in the Red Hill Road area, down to Evans Bar. Crews continued to mop up the spot fire from last week. It continues to be tied to the main body of the fire. We're able to add some black line or containment line in the Clems Flat area, and crews will aggressively mop up that last piece of hot line in that area with the intention of having that identified as containment line in the next day or two. Moving back towards the west, in the Shake Ridge area, the line is held very well. Crews continue to mop up and build depth in that area. And then the spot fire that we had 4 days ago, line held very well yesterday. Crews continue to mop up, keeping a very close eye on that, monitoring the weather and any north winds that may surface just above the rock flat area, but the line did hold very nicely. Moving to the north of Hayfork and just north of Farmer Ranch Road over to Big Creek Road, line continues to hold. We're in a patrol status in that area. We haven't seen any growth in multiple days now north of Hayfork. Our priority continues to be northwest Hayfork. Very little growth yesterday, but there was a lot of heat on the line. We did have some flare-ups. Crews continue to work in the Bean Gulch Road area and the Cedar Gulch area. Contingency line is being developed from West Hayfork down and around Drinkwater Gulch, and we will be tying dozer line into down to Tule Creek Road. That should be completed in the next 48 hours. All in all, in the south zone, very little growth yesterday, but there is a lot of interior heat. Our line was challenged in multiple places, but crews were able to hold the line. Did have 2 small spot fires that crews redeployed, went after aggressively, and were able to get fire line and extinguish those edges, and they'll continue to mop those up as well. And then we have contingency line coming from Sims Gap down to Hiampah Road that we continue to widen and improve as well. So crews will be aggressively working in northwest Hayfork today, and we will surge crews in and around the fire to the south to Hayfork as needed. Thank you.